right now, another part of my stress, which I'm literally trying to ignore, is this election. It's just like
Yeah, and
it's
here's the
so
thing.
close that it's just giving me
It's
anxiety that I'm
it's so
ignoring.
close. So many key elections are within just like this Texas one I'm really paying attention to.
God,
I don't even know what's happening in Georgia right now.
exactly. Oh, well, that like, did you? Sorry, Georgia is just like this really frustrating situation because every time you get a new update, it's just like they are doing everything that they could possibly think. There was
Yeah.
like a story earlier today where like the voting booths were running on battery and not plugged in, and therefore they died out. And it just
Wow.
took them forever to figure out that, oh, the issue was that there was no extension cords.
I'm
And
sure.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
sure
you know.
that's
So, and it's just, I just don't understand how voting is not a national holiday. Like, it just doesn't make sense.
or put it on a damn Saturday. That's what Australians do.
Exactly. It should be a day where, I mean, honestly, even if it's on a Saturday, people work Saturday, food industry. It just should be a day off. Like, it should be like
Yeah.
a national holiday. We do it for like the dumbest of things. We can do it for voting.
Here's the thing with voting is that you're so hopeful when you do it, but like even now, like my hope has turned to just severe just pessimism.
I want to
Like
say,
I'm
are
just
you? Because you're like, you're so hopeful. I'm like, I'm not me. I'm always like, eh. It's like, it's at
I
this
feel
point in
like you
time, it's
have to
like,
be hopeful when you vote. Like when you initially go in, you don't make the vote hoping, that it doesn't go well, but
for
just
me,
yeah,
it's like
to
playing the lottery. Like, I do it, but I don't really expect anything from it.
yeah. And I really feel like that this, I mean, I don't want to contribute to all the speculation that's out there. I just feel like it's not going to be it'll be two steps forward, three steps back, like everything else.
Yeah, and that's why I'm just honestly I'm distancing myself from it.
Sure.
And I just want to I'm not distancing myself from it because I don't care. I'm distancing myself from it because I care too much. And in order to live my life, I'm like, you know what? I voted. I encouraged everyone that I could to vote. I helped out.
Sure, yeah, me
I
too.
volunteered in so many different ways that it's out of my hands at this point in time. And I think
Sure.
that's what the real issue is. It's not that like I don't care or that like I don't have faith in the system. I'm losing faith that people will do what is necessary for of them.
Well, I'm also just losing faith that people will, as a large group, as Americans as a whole, will understand just how much has gone into making sure they make ill-informed votes or don't vote at all.
Yeah.
Like I just feel like that's just kind of like the behind the scenes figure that isn't really getting the attention that it should. I mean, in Georgia, we kind of see it getting a little bit more attention, but yeah, there's just so much wrong with this whole voting process that every time it comes time to vote, I'm like, shit, we still haven't improved this, and I was like, oh yeah, that's right, people are actively working to make sure we don't improve this.
Yeah, I know. Honestly, it's just when you see the different ways that they've tried to suppress the vote, especially in Georgia, it's
In Georgia, it's just so blatant, and that's the
yeah,
kind
and
of
that's the
stuff
thing.
I'm
It's
thinking
like
about, like
really
Trump now. Like you can just be just blatantly, just like just unethical and racist and all these things, and people are just like, well, taxes are better. I don't understand that how we got to this point where so many people are on board with trading away their morals for a pay bump.
well. I mean, like not only that, it's not even trading away your morals for a pay bump. Some of them know they get nothing out of it. I mean, the only thing is they remove someone else's chance of being an American. That's what's
Yeah.
important to them, and that's what's really frustrating. Speaking of moral decisions, I was pretty impressed with this episode. It was pretty
You know
interesting.
what? For the first like half of this episode, I was like, this is a filler episode, whatever. Ben is probably actually sick, and so they had to rework something last minute. But then I realized, no. This is Eric and Feeny's episode.
Well,
This
Eric
is
and
where,
Feeney's, but then also Shawn and Turner's. Like this is
yeah,
pretty much
there's
a pivotal
so
moment.
much establishing of like what these other characters are gonna be that it almost seems like it was purposeful
Yeah,
to have Ben
exactly.
get out the way.
It is really funny because kind of like what you were saying earlier, the moment I started watching this, anyone who has been keeping up with these Comic Con conferences know that they said whenever Eric got a storyline or Shawn got a storyline, it's usually because Ben Savage was like doing something educational. And so like they just didn't have him. And even though Corey makes an appearance, this is definitely a Boy Meets World without Corey episode.
Yeah, I mean they do a really half-assed attempt of filming for like 2 hours one day and splicing it into the episode to make it seem like he had this mono storyline. Um, but yeah, other than that, it's pretty much a Shawn and Eric focused episode, which I can't recall ever seeing. Seeing so far.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's that. I was thinking that too. It's like it's interesting to see because they do a lot of structuring around there's no Corey. And like they mention it, but it's interesting to see these scenes that you get without a Corey. And it also says a lot about the cast and the structure of the show that you can remove the star like this and it really doesn't take anything away.
It's almost like it was an experiment to see like can we still make this work without Ben? And I would argue to say that they made it work better than they have in a few episodes
Yeah,
without Ben. So maybe they needed to develop some of these TikTok. And I've been saying that like we have all these freaking Harley sister bullcrap development for side characters. Like develop these core characters and expand out because what we see in Eric in this episode literally is Eric for the next like 3 or 4 seasons.
exact same thing with Shawn. Let's just get into it. You ready?
Yeah, let's get into this.
Wow, we didn't even do our intro. So
Yeah.
When the spawn meets world, spawn meets world. When the spawn meets world.
what up, bros?
What up, bros?
What was that even like?
And I was
Halloween
I was
was
trying to
last
do
week.
an SNL kind of like a
Oh, okay. I was like, that was like a Halloween thing.
No, I was trying something different. Whatever. What up, bro?
Okay, yeah, exactly. So anyway, moving forward, welcome to episode 41. I'm Siege.
And I'm your boy TC.
TC. We kind of did like a little what's up, but let's just bring it back and see how you doing. What's coming up?
Well, things are great. I am watching the news and having small strokes, but other than that, things are cool. It's
Yeah,
election night for those who are listening to this episode.
I was
We
say,
recorded.
whoever's listening to this episode right now, we are recording literally while I'm in Seattle for work, and TC is watching the election. So just because of everything, we're recording a little bit off of our usual schedule, so we'll have a quicker turnaround time. But that also means that by the time you hear this, the results of the election will be out, and
Yeah.
hopefully you're breathing a little bit better than we are. Yeah,
Guys.
exactly. Just a little bit. Like, I don't know, like maybe this is taking your mind off of things, or maybe, this is just the cherry on a good week. I don't know. I'm hoping, I'm putting positive vibes out there for future you. Let's talk about this episode. We've already kind of did a little bit in the beginning again. So do you want to just go right into the tell me about it?
Tell me about it.
This is season 2, episode 18, By Hook or by Crook. The supporting characters take center stage when Corey catches a cold. We start with Eric and Jason planning for a trip to Europe, only Amy and Alan tell the boys that Eric can't go until he pulls a B average. The boys try to take the easy way out by bargaining with Feeny, but Feeny suggests they get a tutor and earn better grades. The tutor, Tori, ignores Jason's smooth talk, but has a thing for Eric. In fact, she's willing to give Eric the answers to the test. Eric refuses, but notices that he still receives an A after leaving half the test blank. Eric is determined to earn a better grade on his own on the next test, but Tori offers him the answers again. This time he takes them and passes, but the guilt from cheating forces him to confess. In a B plot, when Turner's bike needs repair, Shawn has a connection.
I don't understand the title of this episode.
Neither did I. I was really worried. Like, when it said by hook or by crook, I was like, ooh, maybe this will be relevant. And then
I
it wasn't.
thought it was a different episode based on the title of it.
Yeah,
truthfully.
exactly.
Yeah, as we were saying earlier, this was just it was a really interesting episode because we don't see our central character really at all. But we really see them taking advantage of this time with these side characters, Eric and Shawn, that we see all the time, but never really get much development. I mean, we learn a ton about both of these characters, and they have they really do a great job of setting up these relationships with these male role models that will become such a huge part in their story arcs going forward.
Yeah, no, I'm really, really excited with what we got with these because it not only did it lay the foundation, but we just were able to see what the show could do without Corey, you know?
Yeah, and it seems like you know what, just taking some time to really focus on these side characters. We get Jason, which is always really great. You know, we
Yeah,
love
Jason was fun
though.
in this, even though he's always Jason. He's kind of like, I'm noticing, he's a little one dimensional in his character, but Jason Marsden plays it so well that it doesn't really matter.
I had a question about Jason. At a certain point, like Jason's trying to get a B average too, but did his parents put a rule on him going to Europe?
No, and I think that's well. Two thoughts I had on this. One thought that I had was that this is why we don't see Jason anymore. Jason goes to Europe and just never comes back. But then
100%.
also, I think that it's just one of those camaraderie things. He's like, you go, I go type situations. So Jason doesn't need his parents' permission. It doesn't seem like it's reliant on that, but he wants to kind of do it out of solidarity.
There's this really funny bit where Eric is talking to Feeny and Jason's like miming him as they're talking.
Yeah,
They just have such great comedic timing together. And even though
exactly.
like sometimes their dialogue kind of makes me roll my eyes,
Yeah, I
Jason's just so damn charming.
I liked the hands-on experience
Yes,
a little
yeah.
bit.
But see, Dad, that's why I'm not doing well, because I don't have any hands-on European experience, you know? That's why we're going to Europe, to get our hands on something.
Again, it's not the greatest. It doesn't age that well, but just the idea of that's why we're going to put our hands on something.
So before we get too far in, let's do the roll
Roll
call.
call.
Yeah.
Let's talk about. We have two characters this week that we talk about. That would be Tori.
Yes. Tori Hart, which is the most 90s pretty girl name I've ever heard in my life.
Tori Hart. I love it. Tori Hart, and then Uncle Mike.
Uncle Mike, is this our first time seeing Uncle Mike?
See, he's played by one of those guys who I see in everything, so I can't tell if this is our first time seeing him on the show, or if
Here's
like
what because when we were at that shop, I thought, isn't this not the same shop
it
that
is. It
Eric took the car to when
is.
he went out without his license and those pretty girls were like trying to like get him a
It
deal with the guy?
is.
It wasn't that
Thank
Uncle
you.
Mike?
Thank you so much. I looked at this guy and I was like, he looks so familiar. And yeah, they just used the same guy.
Which I
Um,
mean, I guess doesn't break away from the storyline at all because that
Not
could have
really.
very well have been Sean's uncle's shop.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just the shop that's in the area, but I just thought, yeah, I was like, this
I
just
mean, and
seems
yeah,
very familiar.
Sean's there, but like they don't necessarily like his time there isn't as long. So it's not like,
Oh, I actually thought we learned something great about Sean, which is that Sean works
that's what
at
I
this
was gonna
shop
say. I
after
made that
school.
note.
Sean has a job,
Sean has a job.
which would explain how he's always able to go to Chubby's and take all these girls out on dates when he's supposed to be poor.
Yes, I really, really liked that. I love that you wrote that note because I said the same thing. Um, Wait, I mean, we kind of like we mentioned Uncle Mike a little bit, but do you want to talk any more about Tori?
Oh, Tori is it's a really there's moments of Tori's story where I'm like, this is hardcore sexual harassment.
Yes.
And I was just like, wow, it's so interesting seeing the gender reverse
Yes.
play, like that reversal play out like this. And I didn't really know how to feel about it.
So I had two feelings. One, I think it is really important, especially like it's funny how relevant this is with the Me Too movement and everything. I think, and talking about sexual harassment and respecting other people. I love that. Later on, Feeny's like, no, you don't respect him because if you respected him, you wouldn't have done this. But so I like that we are dealing with it, and I like also that they didn't like just pull Topanga out to do this or Amy. It's like it wouldn't have felt right for the
or
show.
that the kids actually learned a lesson from it, unlike
Yes,
some of these other episodes where they do horrible shit and don't learn anything.
exactly. I mean, oh my god, the bow on this episode with Feeny and Eric and everything. It's just it's really well done. But all of that being said, I do think it would be we would be remiss to not point out that yeah, the idea of this show being like, oh, and it happens to boys too. It's not that it doesn't, but they just don't do women that well. So
Yeah.
the idea that the villain is a girl again is just like
Well, I think it's just, she's using her position of power to make a sexual influence on Eric.
exactly.
And to offer him something that she knows that he wants and needs.
Yes.
It's I mean, it does raise a lot of ethical questions. I don't think that they handled it. I think they handled it as well as Boy Meets World could have. I just kind of
Yes.
questioned why they felt the need to.
I mean, I
um,
think it was honestly, I think I do like it because Eric at this point in time is the pretty boy, and he has just been the pretty boy. And the lesson in this is really about Eric's character. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And I
because oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say it's this episode is really about Eric's character, and they kind of position Eric as this person who, yeah, he may not be smart, but he's moral. He's a good guy. It's like Eric is. I mean, for all intents and purposes, he's not the smartest uh, guy out there, but he was raised right. It's a really big testament to Amy and Alan that, first of all, he refuses to cheat right off the bat. And he really does want to earn his grades. But then when he does cheat, he goes back and confesses. And he doesn't even like just tell his parents. He goes back to the original source, Mr. Feeney. You know what I mean? And he's just like, I need to make up for this.
I cheated, Mr. Feeny. I had the answers to the test written on my hand.
And you only managed an A minus?
I sneezed off a couple of the answers.
And I think that to me, that was actually really, really a great thing to learn about Eric.
Well, yeah, and I noticed that too, that and that's something I think we kind of see continuing throughout the show is that though they kind of make him dumber, they make him have such a big heart.
Yes.
And one of the things that I noticed with this episode was that for the first time we changed what Eric's character wants. Because up until this point, all he's ever wanted was either women or wealth to get women, and it was all of this push to get laid, really. And now he actually wants something that's not a woman for the first time, so much so that he doesn't even indulge in this gorgeous girl throwing herself at him because he wants something that badly. And like
Yeah.
it's just it's a huge turning point for his character, and I think this is kind of where we start to see such his character develop so much more because he wants something that's more than just what an average boy wants. He wants to be better, a better version of himself, and we'll see that a lot going forward.
Well, yeah. Well, he wants to be a better version of himself, but it's also funny because we bring up a few things. One, Eric has kind of been getting by on his looks, even in the show. It's just like and I think the purpose of this is to show that he is more than just a pretty boy. You know, it's like they have more to tell about Eric than just his teenage boyness. You know what I
And
mean?
I wonder how much of that was just like Will Friedle like going to the writers' room and being like, "Guys, can you give me anything else to fucking work with here? Because like this
See, I
Girl of the
feel
Week
like it
thing is getting
honestly,
old."
I think if, in my personal opinion, just learning what we learned about the show, I think it was honestly a happy accident. I think that they couldn't use Ben the way that they wanted to. And they were like, let's do something different with Will and Ryder. You know what I mean? Let's give them something.
It's almost like it was their first time going like, "Well, if we don't have Ben, what can we do with Eric and Ryder? Oh, we can actually do a lot with them." And then
Yeah,
that kind of
exactly.
continues on. Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree.
It was nice
Um,
seeing Topanga again in this
yes, I
episode.
was
It's our
like,
first Topanga episode in a long time, even though she's hardly in it.
I think it's funny that we go weeks without Topanga, and then the first episode that Corey's not in, they're like, "All right, I guess we can have her back."
It's interesting. This is our first time seeing her like actually jealous at the idea of him being with another girl. Like he's kissed other girls, he's gone to dances with other girls. He was dating that chick Wendy for a while. We never see or hear Topanga say anything about it. And now that he might have mono, she's like,
You have mono? As in the kissing disease?
I believe that's the one.
Corey Matthews, who have you kissed?
Well, I think that's interesting because it is a thing where Corey has mono, and for me, I was looking at it I was taking Topanga's thing where it's just like a no, she knows everything about Corey. You know, like even usually when these girls come around, like they have Topanga on the sidelines or something like that. I mean, not always, but just sometimes they do. And so she knows about Corey, and she knows like so for her to not know something again, even in the future, it's kind of like Topanga is all knowing when it comes to Corey and Shawn. So the idea that Corey has this sickness that she didn't know about, and then he got mono, and he's like, "What is going on with you?" You know what I
well,
mean?
maybe it happened when her daddy was taking her shopping in New York City.
A very good point. Maybe. How long was that business trip or shopping trip?
I don't know, but Topanga apparently goes on a lot of trips because she's only in like half the episodes this season.
Yeah, I mean, but I think again we were doing a lot of experimenting, and we just wanted to see, or you know, we'll really nail down that formula next trip. I mean,
Sure, sure.
okay, so let's talk about Turner and Shawn.
Oh,
Because I think like there's just so much that happens for that setup that I really want to make sure that we acknowledge that as well.
sure.
I mean, so first of all, like a lot, we hear that, you know, Mr. Turner got his bags mixed up on the bus. And they're like, wait, you're taking the bus? What happened to your motorcycle? And I just love that right here, we get a lot. We get, you know, there's this identity of Turner being known for his motorcycle. And then we talk about Turner's salary a little bit. And I always love that they remind us that, you know, these are teacher salaries and that, you know, they're working class for all intents and purposes.
The note I took for this scene was these classes are like 8 minutes long. Why are they wasting this much time on this bike?
Yeah, I mean, that is funny. But also, I will say, it is Shawn who's asking most of the questions. So you always had that one kid who would extend asking the teacher about their personal life so you didn't get any new homework.
I really love Shawn obviously is like recommending his uncle to Turner, saying,
Turner.
"Hey, take it to my Turner," saying, "Take it to my uncle's shop." And he gives him a business card, and the first one is for Uncle Leo's bail bonds and prosthetics.
Yeah,
One way or another will get you on your feet. Is
I
a
love it.
hilarious
That is
joke.
hilarious. Absolutely. And then what I loved about this, not only do we get a little um, Shawn and Mr. Turner dynamic, which we're going to get a lot more of. I'm with you where it's like, I love how protective Corey is of his teacher. And he's like, this dude is,
Sean.
yeah, sorry, Shawn. How protective Shawn is of his teacher. And he's like, this is my teacher. That means something to him. And I think that's so fantastic. So much so that he's like, he's like, I want you to treat him special, like family. No, not like family.
Yeah, that's a really funny joke too. Yeah, when I saw Shawn stand up to his uncle, specifically like in that kind of last scene where he gives Turner the bill that's like $1,500 when he was quoted like $300,
Yeah,
which is outrageous.
5 times.
Um, but yeah, I just thought it was really we saw how much it meant for Sean to have like a strong male influence in his life. That even though we've never really seen him and Turner have a quiet moment before, you can still kind of understand why this man is so important to Sean.
Exactly. And I also, it kind of sets up the fact that he's, when Turner is like, I'm not going to give him any favors. Uncle Mike's like,
That was a really interesting revelation as
yeah,
well.
he's like, no, Sean's the scholar in
He's
the
the
family.
scholar in the family.
And Turner's like, I don't think you're lying to me.
Yeah. I really do wonder, like, how bad Sean's grades are really, because, like, he's never left back. You know,
Yes.
he's not failing everything, but he's obviously considered the in the bottom of his class. So I'd be very interested to see, like, obviously he's not getting all D's and F's.
Yeah, I think honestly he's probably like one of those 7.2 students, you know what I mean? Where it's like
Yeah,
he's mostly C's. Occasionally he'll get like a B once a year, and a few D's, but like it averages out to where he passes. But I think also the thing with Shawn is that, I mean, Turner and Feeny are constantly like, you can do better, you're just not willing to. You know what I mean?
you know what's something I thought about, and we had this was. I'm so sorry because this was in a previous episode, but I just remembered this. Sean did that trailer park poem.
Yeah.
Um, and then we later find out in the series that Shawn, aka Ryder, really, but Shawn is a very talented poet.
Yeah.
And so I wonder if he's getting like decent grades in his English class. Like
That's
if
also,
that's just where he excels in, if that's where his like mindset is, and like the science and math just isn't his strong suit.
well, I don't know because his English clashes with Feeny. But I think that if that's the case, you could be right where it's like Sean's like a great writer, but he just doesn't do the assignments. And I think with
Yeah,
with Feeny, Feeny will always give someone like Sean who, when they do the work and it's like above par, he'll give them
sure.
like a little bit more weight than the fact that Sean didn't hand in his assignments, because he understands that that portion is just not where Sean's going to follow through.
Yeah, funny how both of our main characters in this episode struggle with grades.
Yeah, exactly. And I also want to go back to, I'm glad that we hit on Sean and Mr. Turner, but I also wanted to go back to the whole Tori and Eric thing for a few reasons. One, I was like, when we see Tori beginning to tutor, Jason is like going in for it automatically.
He's
And
hilarious
he's
in every.
funny, but
Yeah,
she's
he's
just
so
like,
funny.
you got that out of your system? You good? And he's like, yes, yes, I am. And she immediately is into Eric. And I'm like, is she just into tall dudes? Because, I mean, Jason's not bad. And if she's looking to like break the rules, it's clearly, it
Well,
has to
she
be
kind
something
of
superficial.
she gave Eric goo goo eyes like right off the bat
Yeah, but
when
that's what
she
I'm saying.
first
Is
saw
she
him. Yeah.
just into tall dudes? Because, like,
Well, no, because she, I mean, she goes on to say like with a face like yours, you don't really have to worry about anything in life.
but they're,
Um,
I mean this in the best way possible. They're 90s white. There's not that much different in their faces.
very true. Um, the
It's
mayo
really
is
not
strong
that,
with these two.
yeah, there's really
Um,
not that much difference. Like hair color, possibly. But other than that, if you were to like put them on the same level, and maybe it's just because I find Jason more attractive, but it's just like there's just not that much that makes Eric like 10 times dreamier than Jason. And the only thing I can see different is height.
yeah, possibly. I mean, girls,
Yeah, tread
in my
softly.
experience, I know many women who prefer to have a taller dating partner.
Yeah, of course. I mean,
Um,
I'm tall, and so I am well aware of
sure,
the
sure.
that is in the dating world.
Um, I thought it was very interesting how, for a season and a half now, we've seen Eric really just like be disgusting about women. Um, and like for the first time, like his foe in this episode is a woman who is like making him into the meat. You
Yes.
know,
Well, I
like
don't
that
think it's
was
just the being the meat thing, which she does say. He's like, "Oh, you just think I'm a piece of meat," which is funny. But I also feel that if she was into him, or if there was like some kind of equality in the relationship, he wouldn't feel that bad. It is. I think she hit on the insecurities of Eric's, which is that he's not smart. You know what I mean? And it's the fact that she doesn't think that he can do it that really bothers him. You know?
yeah, and it's also really interesting too because like I don't know. His confidence seems so much better. Like I recall like in previous episodes of him like, spending forever trying to look good for a date or whatever. And now he's just like, "Oh yeah, I know I look good, but I want to be more than that." And I
Yeah.
just thought that was an interesting like revelation that, oh, okay, so he's aware that he's attractive and he's confident in that, but he wants to be more than that. So that's cool.
It's one thing when like you tell yourself, "Oh, you're not getting good grades because you're not trying." But when you have someone who you respect, because I will say that not Sean, Eric respects Tori. When you have someone that you respect, kind of telling you, "I don't think you can do this," it's one of those things where he's like, "Oh, well, I always thought that if I tried, I could do it, and you're telling me that I can't," and that's a completely different shot to the ego. You know what I mean?
Totally. Also, it's just another example of Boy Meets World creating these like villainous, terrible women
Well, that's
that
why I
don't
said
exist in
early
real
on.
life.
I was like, well, no, I'm not going to say they don't exist. I think it does. But I think that I'm not going to say that there aren't people, just in general, people in power. And I definitely looked at this show very often, or this episode often, and was like, what if the genders were reversed? And I could see it still going down where this tutor is just like, oh, I'll just give it to you. You're good to look at. There's no way you're going to grasp this.
Yeah.
And I think that was just the overall lesson. I mean, because even at the end, when Feeny's like, "This is what I get for hiring a girl," and she's like, "Excuse me," and he's like, "Oh, so you don't like to be reduced to just that?"
I thought that
Like,
was a classic Feeny moment, by the way.
yes, exactly. It was just such a good flip of the script.
Well, this is what I get for selecting a pretty girl to be a teaching assistant.
Excuse me?
Oh, you resent that? Because growing up with a pretty face, you had to work twice as hard to be taken seriously? I should think you, more than most, would want to help this young man have his chance of being taken seriously.
It
Because
reminded me a lot of when Corey was trying to teach Anne Frank and he called Shawn a wop.
yeah,
That like, oh, I'm gonna shock you help you make your own realization of what you're doing to you know what I mean? Just that whole
exactly.
thing.
And what's weird, and maybe it's because I'd seen this, show before, so it's in the back of my mind. But when Feeney said that, I didn't even react because I was just like, this is. I immediately knew that Feeney was trying to make a point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
there wasn't even that second of like, Feeney. It was just like, no, I think he's going somewhere with this. And I'm really glad. But what did shock me was that he didn't fire her, and his reasons why. I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah, I think I think it makes sense when you understand that these are still kids in high school. These are children who are learning.
Yes,
And so
exactly.
I do think Feeny affords them second and third chances. As we see with Corey and Shawn, they literally just took over the school's radio station. Like like they get so many chances from this guy.
Yeah, no, when Feeney was like, I mean, he specifically says, I don't write people off. And I think that's a very interesting thing, and kind of to like bring it back to being political a little bit. I do have to say that was interesting for me to see that Feeney's like, no, I don't just write people off because they've done something that by all means, um, they should be penalized for it, you know?
You know what else was interesting too? Just like with Corey and Shawn in the Weenie episode, Eric refused to rat out
Yeah. Yeah.
Tori for giving him, and then Tori ultimately gave it away herself, very similar to the way
Exactly.
Shawn did.
Well, yeah, but like it's very not only like the way Shawn did, but like she did it a little bit worse because I can't remember verbatim, but it's one of those things where it's like she kept cutting off Feeny. You know, like Feeny kept
Yeah,
trying to
she
like if she would have just let Feeny finish any one of his sentences, she wouldn't have been in that position.
and that's why I know that if I don't know if I'm in trouble, but I
Yeah,
might be,
exactly.
I just don't
What you got
say
on me?
anything. I'm quiet. Yo, question for you.
Yeah, I'm here.
Did you ever cheat on a
Of
test?
course, I'm a
Yeah,
person.
absolutely. 100%.
Now, I will say that for the most part, I didn't do it regularly. And also, I was one of those people who just like, I would usually forget that I could cheat. You know what I mean? It's just like afterwards, I'm like, oh man, I guess cheating wouldn't have been that hard. I just was never good at cheating. And I also feel like it's the thing I say all the time is like I don't lie because I'm not good at it, so it's just easier
Sure.
for me. Yeah, because I feel like every time I did cheat, I was so obvious about it because it's something that I don't do. And it's not to say that I never got away with it. It's just to mean that I think maybe I got away with it and the teacher just didn't care. You know, like
Oh,
I just don't know if my skill was that great.
I turned into a damn like Inspector Gadget when it came to cheating on stuff. Like I before this was before like teachers know to look for it. But I would take water bottles and I would put the answer inside the
Yes,
wrapper and then
yes.
tape it back up again. And yeah, I would do that.
That's what I'm saying. Like when I went to a different school junior year, I learned all these other ways that people were cheating. And I was like, "Are you kidding me? This is some creative shit."
Yeah, you really this was like a criminal Etsy. Like you really got
Yeah,
creative
very
with
much
it.
so. See, and that's
Um,
my whole thing. Like, I'm just that idiot who tried to earn his grade like a fool.
Well, I will say that like I hardly ever cheated on tests. A lot of the times it would just be like, "Hey, can I forgot to do my homework. Can I copy yours before we go into class?"
Oh, are we
Um,
counting that? Because that's like there was like an entire year where I remember you and we were in this group where like that's what everyone did. One person would do the homework, and then like in the morning right before class, we would all just copy
100%.
it.
Um, but I will say that there was this one time I took Spanish online when I was in college, and I legit had my mom record something in Spanish because she speaks it, and then I
Terrible,
changed the pitch to make it sound like a boy, and then submitted
terrible.
it for my final, and I passed.
Terrible. That is absolutely terrible. I mean, but again, also very. Me and my best friend always talk about like to be honest, cheaters get far in the world, like in the way that it's set up now.
Yeah,
So
like
I
if you
honestly, I'm of that school of you like you shouldn't cheat. It's morally wrong. But if you do cheat, you're only going to get punished for getting caught, not for
the
actually
most
cheating.
successful people in the world are the ones who have found a way to cheat and not get caught.
Exactly. So if you get caught, your punishment is for getting caught. It is not for cheating because that's how you're going to get ahead in the world. I want you to be smart. I want you to be crafty. I want you to know which rules apply and which ones don't. That's, in my mind, way more valuable. But
It's
at
what
the
the kids
exact
call
same time,
street smarts.
exactly. But at the same time, if it's all for naught if you get caught.
Yeah. Well,
Exactly.
and I mean, or if you have a conscience like Eric, and you're just like, you know what, I didn't earn this. Like when his dad and mom give him the gift that they give him
Yeah.
that bag, you could just tell he's just like felt like absolute shit,
Yeah,
and I
which
was
is
just
why I
like,
said, like, I always do. I love that at the end of the day, they show, and they don't even do it like the whole father knows best thing where Alan comes and reprimands uh, Eric for, cheating. It's all just the way he was raised. He knows what he's done wrong and he owns up to it. And I think that's really, really great to see that.
well, he couldn't get his refund for the Europe trip, so they ended up sending Morgan instead.
I love these little side stories we create because it just makes sense, and I say that we go move forward with it. All right,
Honestly, I have no idea where Morgan is. Just
and I didn't really
saying.
care. I think we
Nope.
we didn't need her.
Nope.
All right. So do you need anything else? I mean, like it was short and sweet.
No, yeah. That's all I got.
Okay. So the only other thing I did want to say, there's like a little small note. There's this scene where um Eric's like, I'm more than just charming and funny and, all this other stuff. I'm really smart. You don't know. And he like walks into the girls' bathroom and it's like this joke. But I was like, to be fair, that has always been a boys' bathroom up until like an episode ago.
Yeah, I
So
mean, I would get confused as well, truthfully.
this is the school where like it's like Hogwarts. The bathroom just keeps changing rooms. So
Oh, there was one other thing I wanted to mention, and this was such a throwaway comment, but like we find out that Feeney's nephew attends his school.
yes. Yes. I was like, okay, what is this all about?
We never hear or see this nephew again. Clearly, this is the son of the sister that was supposed to meet him in the pilot episode for dinner, I'm assuming.
Exactly. And that would also mean that it is Carrie Russell's character's brother.
Yes, but what's interesting is that Carrie was visiting,
Yeah.
and Feeny had always made it seem like his sister didn't live close, that she was
Yeah.
visiting. So, are we to believe that Feeny's sister now lives within the school district?
Yeah, exactly. Maybe they're just not that close.
Yeah, I think that was one of those things that they just kind of threw in there, but it was just like,
Yeah,
you guys
but
are
we're
adding
like,
a whole new
excuse you,
element to
sir. I
this.
don't know if you know this, but in 30 years, we're going to watch this with a very critical eye, and this
Sure.
story needs to make sense.
Well, also it's just this the individual attention that Feeny is able to give these four specific students, and
Exactly. And
his
his
own
nephew is
flesh
just
and
like,
blood is not even included in this. It's
exactly.
just
So
very
that's
interesting.
that's really funny. Okay.
Anyways, that's all I got.
Yeah, I know that's everything. All right. So do you have a lesson?
Um, phew. I guess the lesson is, getting mono is a great way to get a girl to admit that she likes you.
She never admitted it, so your lesson falls flat. Just saying.
She admits it in the epilogue.
Oh, you know what? I'm so sorry. I forgot she did in the epilogue. All right, my bad. That one's on me.
Can I
Okay.
give you a little fun fact?
Yes, go. Fun fact.
The girl I'm dating now, Miriam, who was our guest a few episodes ago, and we celebrated Valentine's Day back in February, and in my card she quoted what Topanga says at this episode, which is,
Yeah, I do. And you like me? Only if you tell me if you like me. Why should I tell you that? Because if you tell me how you feel about me, then I'll tell you how I feel about you. Okay. Okay, I like you. You know I like you. Now you like me or what?
she quoted it exactly, and when I read it, I was just like, that's a keeper. She quoted Boy Meets World in our Valentine card. That's a
That
keeper.
is absolutely. I love that. That's fantastic.
But yeah, good
That's
times.
so good. Oh, that's so sweet. Okay.
The
And
show
like
just plays such a huge part in our lives,
I want to
guys.
say, plus Boy Meets World is so important to us that anyone who were to use it, you're like, yeah, you automatically, like
Yeah, you
automatically,
fam. Automatically. You get it.
you get a date. Okay, so my Feeny taught me would be, I guess, to not write off people immediately. I
Sure,
think
sure.
I'm gonna take Feeny's advice and just be like, you know what? Did you learn something? Which I think is also
Yeah.
really important. It's not that he just was like, you know what, you get another chance. He was like, did you learn from this? And if you
It's
learn
almost
from
like he's
this,
choosing to reform instead of to punish, which
oh
is
my
not
god,
really how I
who
know
knew that would be
of.
effective?
Oh, wow.
Right? God, this nation does need to watch more Boy Meets World. Okay, so
Hey, I don't mean to go too far off topic, but were you turned on by Turner at all in this episode?
so remember I told you I've had a lot going on and I've been really busy, and I promise you when I was writing this, my notes, I was like, I didn't remember Turner's look at all. Like, and I don't know if I was just busy or what. I just honestly, I can't think of a single moment of like
So I guess this episode
Turner.
gets a lipstick for Turner. Ooh.
It is not. I wanted to be very clear in case Mr. Turner is listening because he's a very avid fan.
Of course.
I never have a lip dick for Turner. I just didn't notice it because my life was hectic. But
Sure, sure, sure.
that just means next week we got to come back stronger, maybe shirtless.
100%.
You
We're getting there, bro.
I mean, you promised me this, and if it's not up to my standards, I want at least like a 3 second.
I honestly think we're gonna get there, but who am I to say? We'll
I
have to
want
wait
like
and
an
see.
audience woo and like us that like time for applause, like shirtless. Like that's what I want.
No, you know what? I don't want that because I don't like how the audience will woo for both Turner and for the boys. Like it's strange to me, and I'm not here for it. Choose one or the
We
other.
do it all the time in other TV shows with the opposite
I'm
sex.
not.
So
I don't like it. I
how
don't
many
like it.
times did Kelly come downstairs and Married with Children and it was just the audience going crazy?
Yeah, but
So
okay, that's fine. They only did it for her. They didn't do it for her and the mom. Like it's a weird thing to sexualize both
occasionally
the
they
child and
did.
the adult.
Occasionally they did. And do you know what this generation is like now? Do you watch porn at all? It's all disturbing.
It's all right. I mean, I admit that it's disturbing. I'm just trying to point out that it's disturbing that to sexualize both age groups. That's all.
Okay. So what grade are you giving this?
I'm giving this episode a I'm I'm giving it a B.
Okay, sweet. And is there a reason for the B?
I'm giving it a B because I really felt like they did a great job of establishing these relationships that are going to be really important going forward. They did a great job of developing these characters. I just overall don't really think of the episode as very interesting or memorable, other than the fact that it's this launching pad for these other great relationships.
Exactly. So I'm very similar to where I am giving it a B minus, and it's literally because this is a great episode. It's fun. It sets up a lot of things. There's nothing really wrong with it other than the Corey scene, which is like, eh. But it just isn't that memorable. They kind of waste some time, so it just could be better. Um, yeah.
Just so you know, I did look it up, and the tank top Turner scene is in like 2 episodes.
So I do just have to wait. I'm so
Just a little bit
excited.
longer. There you go.
Okay, how about homework? What you got?
Oh man, so much great homework. Okay, so if I had to whittle it down, there is a podcast that I'm listening to called Sold in America, which is about sex trafficking, and I promise it's
Ooh.
not as depressing as it sounds. It's just about sex work and sex trafficking and just like what it is to be a sex worker in the United States, and it's just a very, very interesting podcast series that I'm really liking right now. I'm also loving this other podcast called Dissect,
Uh-huh.
which basically it takes classic albums and just breaks them down song by song. And they're
Ooh.
doing Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. So just to get like a full breakdown, track by track, lyric by lyric of everything that's in
Oh my.
this
How do they
amazing
even
album.
do that in like such a short time?
Yeah, apparently they've done To Pimp a Butterfly. They did My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy and Frank Ocean's Blonde. But yeah, they're doing Lauryn Hill now, and I'm just obviously like this album is just such a classic. So it's just a great series. So Dissect is the name of that podcast. So you should check it out.
Okay, wow. So my homework is going to be I've been doing a lot of traveling and Netflix has been a friend of mine. So I binged um, two of the, I guess they would be Halloween shows, but it's still fall. You can check them out, which was Sabrina the Teenage Witch, or I think it's called
Yes.
the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina on Netflix, which is really good. It's really dark. I love it. And it's funny because it's clearly it has like shadows or reflections of the 90s sitcom, which is like way more fun and camp. But it's its own show, and it's still in that Riverdale universe, but way darker than Riverdale. I don't know if you like teen shows or if you
Is it
like
a
witch
direct
shows.
spin-off of Riverdale, or is it its own show?
It's its own show, but they do explain that it's in the same universe.
Sure, sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
but
would like to. I would like to check it out. I would also
you
like to
should
see
definitely check it
this
out,
this like
dude.
Mexican charm show or whatever it is. Like,
Yeah, I mean, maybe I will. I don't know. I just Charmed is like a whole different beast, and I just don't understand why they couldn't just name it something else. Like, why did it have to be Charmed? Why not Charmed Generations or like whatever? It's just
uh,
like there are ways to do
I'm
these things.
okay with them pulling a Hamilton on this show that I honestly didn't think is that great of a show to begin with.
Excuse you, sir.
No,
Charmed
no, no,
is
no. Even
phenomenal. The
the
first
most
few
hardcore
seasons.
Charmed fan can
No,
admit that that show
let
is
me tell you
so
right
cheesy.
now, sir. Charmed. You know what? Now we have 3 assignments. Go watch the first season of Charmed, because not only is Charmed like an okay CW series, but the first season, and I think the first 2 seasons, every demon is a white male, and every innocent is a person of color or a woman. And this is like, it was a really great show. It was very progressive. The first season had a lot more people of color than you usually get in these shows, especially for the 90s. It had like an Asian love interest early on. John Cho played like one of the characters. So yeah, this show was killing it when it first came out. And you have a young Alyssa Milano and Shannon Doherty. So suck it.
I'm here for one of those, not the other.
You know what? I'm ignoring you. Moving on to my other
There's
homework
no way
assignment.
you're still Team Doherty after all of this.
We're moving on. Should move on.
I love how I got you speechless over Shannon Doherty. This is a guys.
We are moving on. The last part of my homework is the show, The Haunting of Hill House. Dude, have you seen this show?
No, I haven't.
Dude, this show is cinematically beautiful. It
Ooh.
is a great story. First of all, the characters are ridiculous. I dare you to not fall in love with one of these characters. It is the acting is just so good, and then the way this show is shot. Honestly, I can't even without any spoilers. I won't tell you what episode. There's one scene where it's a 16-minute one take scene, and the actors
Ooh.
literally did everything in one take. Like they just would move from one spot to the other really quick because there's a lot of time jumps and all this other stuff. And it's so good at subverting expectations because it literally leans into everything you expect from like a haunted house story, and then does something different. And it's phenomenal. You gotta check this show
I'll have to check that out. Yeah.
You really, really got it. And I promise you'll be hooked from the first episode. But like halfway through the series is just like sometimes you need a break because it's so good, but it's so heavy.
Sure.
It was one of the shows that I literally like I could barely keep my eyes open. I was so tired from everything that's going on. But I was like, must figure out how this episode ends.
So it hooks you. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
very, very much so. And they even like end. It's one of those shows that I like anyway, where like each episode kind of ends on a cliffhanger. So it's like they dare you to walk away. You're like, well, I'm clearly going to come back.
Huh. Okay.
Right.
I'll have to
So
check it out.
that is us. Hopefully you voted, and the world is a slightly better place, even if it's just a little bit. Thank you guys for listening to Bro Meets World. Remember, you can find us on Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube's, all the things. Message us. We miss hearing from you guys. You can follow us on Twitter and Facebook at Bro Meets World, or email us at bromeetsworld@gmail.com. Tonathy.
Yeah, you can catch me on Instagram at a braver me, and you can also catch me at the voting polls because that's where I be.
Exact. And you can find me on Twitter at Extra Siege. That's XTRACEEJ. After that, I'm just, you guys, just remember to dream, try, and do some good,
Do
please.
some damn.
The world
good,
needs
guys.
more good. It just does.
Try. Dream, try, do good.
All right, later, bros.
Later, bruh.